is there an environment for the child to depend on you, and vice versa, because you need each other. So that's my answer to the question. From a parent's perspective, if I ask my child, how are you? It means tell me everything. From school, lunch that you had, the bad time that you had in school with the teacher, the good times, it means everything. Your boyfriend, your girlfriend, is the relationship going okay? When you answer fine, I think everything is fine. So, what is the takeaway? Parents, probably how are you is not enough. Break it down, slice it down into bits and pieces. How was your history class, math class? How's the teacher? How's your boyfriend? How's your girlfriend? How's just your friends? What is the relationship? Have you had a kiss yet? Slice it down. How are you is simply not enough.
Next question, directed to our parent and parents. Some people might say that Cameroonian or African parents like to discuss about their children. From accolades to milestones, every parent wants their child to succeed, but community members may be toxic and have opinions that may influence one's parenting, and we know that happens. Did you ever find yourself giving in to the gossip and being hard on your child?
Is this for the parent? I'm going to stand on this one because it is loaded. And I'm going to say yes. But although I won't call it gossip, I will call it a mother crying for help. A mother probably reaching out to a fellow sister asking, you've raised children, what was successful and what was not successful? These are the problems that I'm going through. Help me. Those of us from Cameroon, Africa, we don't want to counseling right away, but we should start doing that. Because there are real problems in our homes, in our families. What we do is run to our fellow sister and say, I'm dying. I need help. I need that outlet. For the men, they don't talk. When you women, you grow up, young women, you grow up, you will find strength in your fellow woman. So when we bring our problems to our fellow woman, it is not simply gossip. It is your mother or your auntie on her knees begging for help, somebody to listen to her, somebody to hold her, because this child that she created and hoped that this child would soar in the skies, she is seeing this child wavering. Instead of rising, the child is falling. It is that raw emotional fear that grasps us, and we have no outlet. So we reach to our fellow sisters. So sisters, when we reach to you, give us the help. Don't pass it around as gossip, because our children may think it is gossip.
Next question. This question is directed to Renee, Brian, and Wendy. Think back to different stages of your life, whether it was grade school, middle school, high school, or as a young adult. At which stage did you face your most significant challenges? Without naming the challenge itself, ask yourself, how would you have wanted your parents or family members to support you during that time?
I'll go first. I'll use a prime example of something I think about now. I just graduated from college this year in May, and a big thing for me was a lot of us going to college, and in some households, some parents they never went to the traditional 4 year that you want to send your kids to. They might have went to 2 year community and did another online, and it's a different aspect. So for me, going to college was big, and when I figured out college was not like high school where, the teachers cared about you and somebody was checking on you, and that was a hard time for me. And I want to say, and I'm kind of going to direct this more towards, I won't say my mom. My mom did a good job, but I'm going to try to specifically talk to the African fathers out there. Y'all have to really hone in with y'all kids when they're in college. Like y'all have to reach out to y'all kids. Like college is one of the hardest things you will ever face or go to, especially going to a 4 year. And having parents who check on you and come down there, like I want to really ask, and I want y'all not to answer, but think about how many times, how many of you guys here have kids in college, how many times you go visit your kid? How many times you go pop in and see your kid and check on your kid and make sure they're doing good? Make sure they're not going through college by themselves and going alone. Calling the kid once a month or once a week, like, hey, you okay, you good? That doesn't really help somebody. So I say for me personally, like, just having my parents there for me in college, because that's like a big thing. I say that was one of my biggest challenges I faced. And I say just for you guys, all that's there, all as parents, just make sure even when your kids, like you said, make sure when your kids are coming back from school, it's never that one-sided question of how are you. It should be, what do you want to talk about? What is something you want to hear? What is the dialogue you want to know? What should we be talking about? What happened in your day? Because as a kid, as me personally, I would have wished a lot of times my dad came and talked to me about certain stuff and came and asked certain questions that I wanted to talk to him about. But it was like, I don't know how to bring this up to my father because I never tried. And I felt like as kids, you parents always feel like, oh, the kids should be reaching out. But sometimes we want y'all to reach out for once. We want to hear from y'all first. So that's a big thing we just want to hear from you guys.
I'd say my biggest challenge in my life was probably in high school age, that age when, especially young girls are starting to figure out who they are. As we mentioned in the scenario, starting to become more independent. And I grew up right here in Aurora. This is my backyard. Grew up attending primarily white institutions, PWIs. So as I'm becoming more independent, I look around in class, nobody looks like me. So it's difficult to make friends just from the jump. Teachers, they see black girls, black kids, they count you out, they don't really respect you. African American kids, sometimes they just see that you're as Africans, and sometimes they write you off. So like, sometimes you're getting it from all angles. And, my path to finding my identity was stunted. It took me a long time. I was struggling with that for a while. So I think what we're trying to zero in on as a communication group is to check in. Because there's a lot of things that, African people growing up in Africa did not have to account for like we do in America. We're getting it from all sides here, and it's hard. So I'd say what I wish I'd wanted is more conversations, more space to be vulnerable. Because a lot of the times where I would, explain what I'm going through would be like, oh, we didn't deal with that in Africa. Just focus on school. We didn't deal with that in Africa. Just shake it off. Just do that. Just do that. And it's a lot easier said than done, right? So ask more questions. Check in, because there's always more to meet the eye. And I wish I had that space to have more of those conversations.
Brian and Lene honestly said everything I wanted to even
to contribute, but I think another part that I want to add to is really about the checking in. And I know mental health is a new topic for, I think, I want to say our parents' generation and understanding that. I'm very well lucky enough to have a mother who is also very well endowed in the mental health community as a psychiatric nurse practitioner. And so I think I do want to give her kudos in that fact because I've heard my friends and my cousins and people struggle with trying to talk to their parents about the mental health struggles. Because honestly, developing your identity here is so hard. You have your African culture that you're so proud of, and it's instilled in you, and you know you want to make your parents proud, but then you also have the American environment where you see kids going into whatever their passions are and being very supported. And you may have ideas of, I need to be a doctor, I need to be a lawyer, I need to be that, but maybe you don't like anatomy. Maybe you don't have that type of presence to be a lawyer in the courtroom. Maybe you don't really like science like that. And you're not really pushed into your passions the way you would want to be. And so I feel it's very important that when it's coming to supporting a child and developing their identity, to really pay attention to what they're into and to support that. And to not feel like they have to be this sort of representation of excellence in the way that you believe excellence to be. They also have opinions and personalities and interests that will be aligned with them. Because you did not birth a child to give born to another, you didn't birth another you. You're birthing a human with fresh ideas and contributions they want to bring into the world. And so I think it's important to really support them in whatever they like. If they like to play with rocks, let them play with rocks. Do not slap their hand and say, go read a book. Let them explore the world in the way they want to. So then that also endows another open relationship to be happy with them and enjoy. And you have little things. They like ice cream, make ice cream together. We need to make more experiences. I want us to have more positive experiences and look back and like, I did that with my mom, I did that with my dad. Instead of growing up and being like, I don't know them because they never took the time to know me.
Thank you, Ms. Windham. And finally, what advice would you give to others on how they can approach their parents, or how parents can invite their children to seek guidance when they need it the most?
The biggest thing I'll leave you guys here with today that has helped me and my mother's relationship 100 times, and it really brought us closer, was just communication. I had to learn at a young age communication. When I had girlfriends, communication. Relationship, friendships, communication. Talking to teachers, communication. Communication is within everything you do every single day. And you have to communicate with your kids. And the biggest thing is when you communicate, you have to be able to compromise. I know how you guys are as parents. I know you guys are very hard. You're stuck with the tradition. Y'all have to realize the biggest thing is we are no longer in Africa. This is America. You're raising your kid in America, not Africa. So I'm gonna leave y'all with this. Just try your hardest to adjust and align your values, but also make sure your kid is still comfortable within their own skin. Because you don't want your kids to be on the street saying, yeah, I hate talking to my mom and dad about these problems. You want your kids to tell other kids, I love bringing this up with my mom and dad because we're able to effectively talk about it, dissect it, and at the end of the day, still love one another.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yes, this is America. We are in America. We're actually in Trump's America. So there's a lot of things going on, and I think back to what Brian said, compromise, which I'm excited to see their conversation later, and really bridging the gaps. There's a lot of things going on, and I think tone, too. I don't know if we spoke on tone yet, but we need to lower the tone. The volume of how we speak to each other, yelling is not very effective form of communication. I'm very particular about that. I really like room, even in school, we're taught speak at a library reading level. Hi, Mom. How are you? There's a lot of things going on today, and I kind of feel like, it's supposed to be not, Mom, come here, do this. like it's heightened. So we can just, volume. I think it's really important to think about volume when we're speaking, so that we're not already starting at 10. Let's start at 1 or 0, actually. So yeah.
Yeah, reiterating everything we've already set up here. Gonna reiterate to just check in. I'm glad that we're having this symposium today. Those of you who still have young kids have an opportunity to take this back and stay with it, because when we were growing up, it was both of us learning, our parents learning how to raise us in America, but also us learning, just learning, but being a part of life. So there's still a lot of learning to do on both sides. I don't want anyone to take this as parents, you're doing a terrible job, kids, you're perfect, because that's not that's not what we're trying to convey at all. There has to be a balance, right? And as long as I feel like communication is the Rosetta Stone to us bridging that healing, to those of us who are already grown and to those of us who are still raising young kids. So, yeah.
So, I want to present our communication team for now, but Wando has something to say.
Yes, we do have some questions that we have seen submitted. Are we? Okay, so we will answer some of the questions that some people have submitted. One question we have is that African parents care a lot about discipline and respect, but American parents care a lot about independence. So how do you find balance of the two? I think they meant American children. So African parents care about discipline, American children care a lot about independence. How do you suggest you balance the two? Anyone want to take that first?
I'll put it like this. You guys are, as going to college, I had the stigmatism of, oh, you're African, you must be smart, because that was the first thing they said. Was everybody was like, oh, you guys, that's all your parents care about is education, which is 100% true. That's one of you guys' biggest thing. But I would say you have to give your kids some type of independence, because I praise my mom for being able to give me and my sister that, because I saw kids in college who didn't have that independence when they were in high school or 8th grade, 7th grade. And when your kid goes to college and they're no longer under your roof, they can do whatever they want. So when you have a kid and the kid's getting good grades, he might be a little rugged at home, there might be some problems, but they're doing along the lines, you kind of have to reward them with that independence. You kind of have to let them venture out and find themselves and figure everything out within, because if you don't reward them with that at that earlier stage, when they get to college, they're going to take it and run with it.
Thank you. We're going to have one more question, and then we'll go to the next one.
How do you correct and accommodate disrespectful slang without getting angry with your child?
Now that I know better, I will not get angry. But before now, or maybe before 6 months ago, I would get angry. How dare you talk to me like that? Because I never, as a child, spoke back to my mother, my father, my brother, or my sister. Because of respect, I never did that. So you must understand as a child, if you slam at me, someone who never, ever said something like that to anybody, how do you expect me to react? I didn't know. How do I know better? Because that slam, it packs a lot of stuff. It's not only a slam. There's a reason behind that slam. Because your child will not disrespect you if he or she felt that they could speak to you and you would listen. So maybe it is the barrier that I put in front of that child. That's why they thought their action of saying something or slamming the door would catch my attention. So now I go back and I say, honey, what is the problem?
Okay, that ends our presentation from the communication team. Please give them a round of applause. They did an awesome job. Thank you very much for listening and for your wonderful presentations. Awesome. So while we are clearing the stage, we want to thank Mayor Elvin for coming. We thank you so much for your presentation, being our guest speaker, and for being very inspiring too. Our next team is going to be our collaboration team. Please, when you are being introduced, just walk off the stage because of time constraints. And again, just a reminder that each panel has maximum 30 to 35 minutes.
Inspiring voices from diverse fields. Meet collaboration panelists, Mr. Peter Etta Jr. I chose to participate in this symposium to help understand and bridge the gap between parents and children as Africans living in America. Dr. Ann Assen. I joined the symposium to share my experience raising my daughters and other kids, navigating cultural differences around discipline, mental health, and complex family dynamics, and to help others create safe, nurturing homes while preserving our African values. Engineer Matebe Ayong. As a STEM ambassador for 16 years, I have mentored children growing up as minorities, and I was excited to be part of the collaboration that allowed us to listen to the kids' views in a more inclusive and well-rounded culture. Ms. Kelsey Isuke. I chose to participate in the symposium because it fosters vital conversations that help African parents better understand their children and American children better understand their parents. Dr. Tammy Hicks. I am honored to participate in the symposium Raising American Kids in African Homes. Parents and caregivers already do the work well. My role is to share ways to do it with affection, confidence, and less stress. Join us for an enriching dialogue where collaboration shapes the future of parenting and community. Don't miss this chance to connect, learn, and grow together.
Please, let's change them up a little bit. We'll be coming out. Aren't we doing great? Yeah. Are we having fun so far? Yeah. Are we learning? Yeah. All right. So that is the goal, for us to live here with something. We can't live empty. Please, can we have a seat before we start? Please, can we have a seat before we start? Let's be respectful of these panelists who have spent hours upon hours to prepare for this symposium. Please. Can we close the entertainment section for now? Please. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm really, really excited. And I can see all of us are excited. Before the collaboration team presents their scenario, I just wanted to remind the audience that the communication team has already done the work. So we're not going to do any skip. We're going to start from where they ended. As Auntie Emma said, we're following the 3 C's. Communication team did set the stage. At this juncture, the collaboration team will just take over, answer their questions based on the scenario. So, and we will start, Mr. Peter Etar will answer his questions first. Ms. Kelsey, Engineer Matabe, I, Dr. Anderson. So I'm going to hand the microphone over to the moderator who will ask us those questions based on the scenario that we just observed.
Thank you very much, Dr. Assam. Who you already heard, who was acted out, the scenario was acted out by one group from our team. We'll just go straight to the questions. And the first question is directed to our son, Peter Etar Jr. In the scenario, the child lies to their parents. How is trust established within an African household? How can African parents and children work together to form an honest environment, avoiding such situations?
All right. Thank you, Auntie, for the question. So, as you mentioned in the scenario, the child lies. Now, the child lies at the end of the scenario, but in between, the child has made attempts to have open communication with their parents and has received no's each time. Just no. No further answers, no attempt at trying to understand the child's perspective. And I think one key point in trying to create an open and honest environment at home is allowing your children to ask questions and being open and honest with them. And I think that this not only has an effect emotionally, but if we think about the cultural implications of being able to ask your parents questions, like for example, sometimes I'll be sitting in the living room and my dad will play this song from God knows when, right? I have no idea what he's saying. It's in some odd language. And I'll just sit there and ask him, who played this song? When is the song from? What language are they speaking? And from there, I begin to understand his perspective. I begin to understand his cultural background, and I begin to appreciate it. And I think, especially, given the current time, it's important to control the narratives that we have surrounding being African in America. Especially being Black people in the cross between being African and being Black in America, we are targets. And making sure that our children understand that Africa is, regardless of the current states of Africa, it's still a beautiful place that's rich in culture, in heritage. And studies have shown that a lot of languages are being at threat of being lost. Why? Because parents at home are not teaching their children the language. So that's one example of how culture can be lost. So I think part of facilitating an open and honest environment is, starting with letting your children ask questions and being willing to answer.
Next question is directed to Kelsey Izuka. In the scenario, the parent denies the child of attending social events, emphasizing the importance of her education. What African values are important for children to hold as they enter American spaces? What values should parents let go of?
Thank you, Auntie. So like you stated, the parent refused to let the child attend these social events, and they highlight the importance of education, and they instill the values of discipline, respect for others, and academic success. Well, just in general, let's scale back and think of immigrant families. All immigrant families come to America thinking this is the land of opportunity. This is a place where your child becomes someone. So we're instilling that constant pressure saying education, focus on your education. But then you have to scale back. These are kids. They need social events. They need to learn communication skills, collaborative skills, because these are the skills they use when they go into the environment. Focusing only on education gives away for the skills that are needed for children to learn how to work with others, learn how to collaborate effectively, communicate effectively. So it's just opening that space where there's opportunities for families and parents and children to work together so that children understand their parents' perspective, saying education is the most secure path to success. But that's not the only foundation being led in African households. We also have to understand the child's perspective. They're growing up in a completely different environment. This is America. You hear it everywhere. There's things in social media where you hear kids doing bad things, and you think, oh, my kid might end up in that situation. I need to make sure I limit them. However, that does not necessarily mean that your kid will always be put in those situations. What we see from social media is not what your kid might be living in day to day. We have to understand, yes, while we take into account the things happening in social media, the things we see from different families, you have to put that trust, that foundation in your child and believe that the things they grow up with, the values you instilled in them, that they will follow that through as they go through their lives. Because we're creating a communication and collaboration that when your kid grows up, they leave your home, that they come back to you and say, hey mom, this is what happened. This is what I'm going through. This is what I need to talk about. And then your parents talk, okay, explain. And I would just highlight, this is really example from my family, living away from home, Monday to Friday. My mom calls me saying, what happened at school? How are things going? I tell her, oh, this test happened, I'm not sure about it, or maybe I had an altercation with a student or a teacher, I'm not sure how to go about it. And then we have that communication, we add that collaboration, and they're all integrated into each other, so we need to have good communication skills as well as good collaboration skills to have a good household. Thank you.
We have some smart kids.
Yeah.
We have some smart kids, trust me. Now, our next question is for Engineer Matabe. How might parents better understand their child's desire for social connection? And how could the child appreciate parental concerns?
Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, this question is really a question between parents and children collaboration. So when you look at this, we look at us as parents, do we really listen? Do we really listen to our kids? So one of the things, I'm not gonna go about it with communication, because us just listening naturally to our kids and having that collaboration with them, it helps our kids emotionally and psychologically. It also boosts their self-esteem. it boosts, it actually makes them become confident. But how does this happen? We have, as parents, have to really understand our kids' social space. Let us make sure we get into the social gatherings where our kids are. For example, if our kids are actually doing a sport or an activity in school, do we as parents, African parents, participate? Do we participate in all the school activities? Do we go to our PTO meetings? So we meet other parents there with our kids' friends. So that is where you connect with parents connect with their kids' friends. That actually reduces the fact that a kid wants to go out for a social gathering with a friend and you say, no, they can't go. Yes, they can go because you've already had that communication with other parents. You've had the communication. You've looked at whether the kids, I have a son who plays basketball and plays the violin. So most of his friends are his basketball mates, most of his friends are his youth group friends at church. But this is the thing, not all friends are actually good friends. So you have to look at the parents, you have to look at the values. We as parents, we also have to look at the values that family, the values that the family carries, and does it relate with the values that you carry? But what is the concern here? You talk to your child. You don't just tell your child, no, you can't go, no, you can't make this social networking because they do not. One of the things we do as parents, we have to have clear boundaries about how do we collaborate together with this child. We have to talk together. We have to meet. We have to meet at a certain place. We cannot just have we know we want to keep our children as safe as we can, but we have to meet them somewhere. Because one of the things we look at these kids, like someone said, they are very smart kids. Just because we think we are so scared of them being around social connections, social interactions, that they are very smart because if something is to happen, they pick the phone and they call. If they don't have the phone, they go directly to an adult that is there. And I'm gonna say another example. Because of collaboration, one of the things, if your child is going out, say your child want to meet others for a movie, what do? You ask, is there an adult that is going to be there? Because some of us just go, we drop our kids and we leave. So we ask if there is an adult there. If there's no adult there, you volunteer as an adult and stay there with the kids because you want to see what is going on as an adult, especially when you have kids that are under 18. Those are minors. You don't want to leave them in a public place without you paying attention there. So one last thing I'm going to talk about is how do we appreciate parental consent? For kids, please, how do the kids really appreciate parental consent? If you're talking to them, you looking at their social activities, you actually having that great communication like the communication team said. So the kids start understanding what the parents' concerns are. The kids start understanding that you give your children a story, something that had happened. Because you don't want to go to a kid and tell a kid, I don't want you to go here because of this. They won't understand. Please give them at least an example, a story, something that happened in your whole life, and so on. So then the last one thing, parents, please, we have to be forgiving and patient with our kids. So one of the things we really don't do for collaboration is forgiving and be patient with our kids because not all kids are the same though. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much, Virginia Matabe. Our next question is directed to Dr. Anna Sam. How can families create shared goals that balance academic success, cultural values, and personal well-being?
Okay, thank you, Mafo, for that awesome question. I will start first by saying that we parents, particularly African parents, we have a tendency, like the communication panel discussed earlier, we have a tendency to impose our goals or whatever we did not achieve on our children. In our households, we like to say, I want to make my pikin be doctor. I want to make my pikin be lawyer. But is that what the child really wants to do? So, to collaborate, we as parents, to set goals, we need to be able to discuss those family goals and not impose it on our children. Because when we impose, the tendency is, these kids raised in America, they'll tell you, I will not do it. A child will look you straight in the eye and say, I will not do it. Why? Because you did not have their input. That is why collaboration is very important. And what do? There's nothing you can do because one fundamental thing we need to realize is that our children are being raised in two different worlds. That's the truth. There's nothing we can do. And then also, for example, we parents, we can set academic goals. How do we can set academic goals, cultural values, as well as emotional life, because what we have seen in this country, I will speak for myself, it is so challenging. If we parents do not collaborate with our children and not to put anything out there or being too personal, we parents need to be very careful, husbands and wives, the way we interact with our children, because this affects not only their physical well-being, but their emotional well-being as well. And if we cannot collaborate as adults, how do we expect our children to collaborate? So, at some point, our African heritage, we like academics, like my colleague said. We can also foster hobbies. Our children can learn, one of the ways that we could achieve a common goal is weekly family meals. And during weekly family meals, we can discuss our cultural heritage, we can talk about dance. And one thing we need to do, I'll speak in my own home. We used to do, Friday was our family day. But guess what? When we met on the table talking, it used to be always about school. How you do? How about this test? Have you done all the homework? One day, my little child said, Mommy, do we have to talk about school all the time when we meet for dinner? Is there something else? Can we just talk and have fun and talk about things other than school? That was an eye-opening for me. So, we as parents, we need to look into our children's emotional well-being other than just academics, because one of the other things that we need to do to achieve all of this is flexibility. We need to be flexible. When we are flexible with our children, everybody feels whole. How are you today? How was school? All of that matters. When a child feels that their emotional well-being matters to you, believe me, they will tell you anything. They don't mind. I'm saying this with my last one. I used to be, do this. It's like there's an anxiety. And they would say, Mom, when they do this, I know the voice is up there and it needs to come down. Anyway, moving right along, the goal to do all of this, there's no right or wrong. The goal is not perfection, but to collaborate and have a good home where they need to be balanced. We need to have balance that will create success, values, and a home where joy can also coexist. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, with the collaboration team, we have seen that, like I said earlier, our children are growing in two different worlds. We have seen that trust is the foundation, built not only through respect, but also through open and honest communication. We're not saying that our values don't matter. Our values continue to remain our strength. And what are the values we talk about? Hard work.
2 seconds.
Okay. Our values remain our strength, but we know that our cultural pride, the next thing is balance. We need to balance education and social life. And if we do that, we raise children who are not only successful, but also grounded and well fulfilled. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just looked at, I think we have 2 questions from our parents, but we take one because both of them are related. Would you rather ask your child or expect your parents to ask you what you would like to become in life, or impose on you what you want to become in life? Who is going to take this question for the child? Yes.
Okay. Okay, and I just want to touch on the point that Auntie Anne talked about how a child is not a parent's second chance. A child is a different being. I know African parents are fond of, back in my day, I used to trek to school. I used to do this. I understand the hardships. Your problems are nearly not as bad as mine. I did everything and I had to control my emotions. You're fine. But we need to understand. We have to collaborate. This is a different environment. We have new things here that technology is available for all children of all ages. So this is an entirely different place. So we have to adapt. It's the whole situation of adapting. Now, in relation to the question of what a parent should ask, we're all fond of you have to become a doctor. You have to do this, do that, do that. This is the path that they're laying down for you. This is the foundation you need to follow. This is your only path to success. But let's scale back. Let's take a turn and realize, wait, there are people out there making money, business owners, not even up to that. We have social media that just bridged many paths. So we have to understand it's not only about being successful, it's about the child's interest. I don't want you to ask me, what do you want to be, a doctor, lawyer, where do you want to go to college? Ask me, what are your interests? What are you fond of doing? What do you enjoy in your free time? Where do you see yourself in those 10 years from now? And I will tell you, this and this and that. And you say, okay, How do you think you can make money? Is this a sustainable job? Will it carry you through your family? Can it support your family? And then we take those all into account. We think about all of those situations. Because at the end of the day, even if I become a doctor, do I enjoy my time there? Or am I just doing it to make money and move on? And then we set those type of cycles. For the next cycle, I push to my kids, you have to be a doctor, it's where the money is. But they don't enjoy it.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Ann, wrap it up.
But I just want to share my own personal life, what she just says. My older child, when she left, all what she heard us at home was not conducted. This child went to school trying to be an doctor, to do medicine. We didn't know the stress she was going through. One day we visited her. She was bawling, crying. And I said, what is it? She said, Mommy, this chemistry, I cannot do it. This biology, that's the first semester. You know what I did? I looked my daughter right into her eyes, which is very important. And I said, baby, when you were going through high school, you are a good writer. You went into competition, one of the best ones you wrote. So you can do English. You needed to see how my daughter changed. I said, you could do English as a degree, and from there you decide what to do. Guess what? Today she's a successful attorney. She said she wants to be a lawyer, and she's a very successful attorney. So we parents, we need to let children.
Thank you very much. I would like you, Peter, you're the leader. What is the take-home message here? What's our take-home message? To collaborate with parents, collaborate with your children, pay attention to them, meet the middle ground. Isn't it? Oh, okay, thank you so much. Please give it up to collaboration team. Yes. So thank you very much. Thank you. Please give them a hand of applause. So our next thing, moving along, we are running a little bit behind, but I don't want to be unfair to the compromise team. I'm still going to give you equal time. So which means that we're going to run a little bit behind time. Now meet our compromise team. Compromise team, you can start coming forward, please.
Welcome to the 2025 Chicago Symposium, proudly hosted by the Graphi Women Association in collaboration with AUMEMA, CAMWAC, and MOHWA. This year, we are diving into a powerful conversation on raising American kids in African homes. Our panelists on compromise bring together inspiring voices from diverse fields. Meet compromise panelists, Mr. Joe Fanani. Living experiences as a child raised by Christian African parents give me reason to participate in this symposium. Mr. Brian Cubane. As a child born in Cameroon and brought to America at a young age, I believe that having both cultural backgrounds is what helps me move forward in life. Mrs. Kaleki Musa. I agreed to participate in this symposium to share insights on DCFS and its impact on African parents and children residing in America, as well as how to navigate the system when they come into contact with the agency. Dr. Vivian Andango. I believe my insights as both a parent and a practitioner can contribute to meaningful discussions about the intersection of American and African cultures in parenting. Mrs. Consistence Bonani. I view this symposium as an opportunity to impact families and communities on the next level. Join us for an enriching dialogue where compromise shapes the future of parenting and community. Don't miss this chance to connect, learn, and grow together.
Please We ask your indulgence to sit down. We are almost done. We are almost there, please. Thank you for being so patient. Thank you for being very patient. I really applaud the kids. I don't see them running anywhere. I don't hear them crying. I don't hear them screaming. I see our kids sitting down quietly and listening, paying attention. So thank you very much. And I see everybody sitting down too. All right. So I'm going to let Dr. Vivian Tendo give an introduction of the team.
Hello, everyone. We have heard from communication, we've heard from collaboration, and at this point, we are going to hear from compromise team. And I want to say that I think compromise is going to crown this conversation, because given everything that we've listened, there is no way we are going to have peace in our homes with our children without us coming into a compromise. So I'm going to go first, and I'm going to paint a little situation. Okay. Here comes an African parent. My customs, my traditions, my values, my heritage. Those are the building blocks and the foundation on which I was raised. And I can just hear our African children in the home. Heck no, Mom, Dad. You know my realities, my lived experiences when I leave this house. Now, these are two opposite positions that we encounter in our homes every day. I bet we can all attest to this. We know that it is very difficult, it is challenging for us raising children in a multicultural community. And if we are not careful, we run into a lot of trouble. But guess what? There is a solution to this. And what is the solution? Compromise. Compromise, I think, is the solution. And what is compromise? And I'll read this. Compromise is the ability to listen to both sides and come to a settlement that is acceptable to both. If we don't have a compromise with our children, this is their lived reality. This is their lived experience. We are living in a culture that is so complex. If we don't have a compromising situation with our kids, we are going to run into a lot of problems. And so, one of the questions that we have for this group, and we try to analyze, is what are the long-term implications of our parenting decisions on our children? And at what point do we find common ground? You see, if we don't have a midpoint where we meet with our children to reason together, things usually go wrong. You know, speaking from the perspective of a parent and also a provider who sees these problems every day, who hears these things every day from people across multiple cultures, not just our African community, it is huge. When we fail to compromise with our children, I'm telling you, it translates into anxiety, it translates into depression, it translates into emotional dysregulation, it translates into unorthodox behavior that we have never seen. So my dear Cameroonians, African parents, our children, we need compromise. When we say compromise, we cannot be far right, we cannot be far left. We need a medium ground. We listen, we have to listen. We can only come to a compromise when we listen. And our children feel like we hear them, but we don't listen to them. We need to listen. Because when we listen as parents, we adapt to the needs of our children. And when our children feel heard, when they feel listened, we empower them. We talk, we explain to them the complexities of their heritage. The very customs, the very values, the very heritage that we want to uphold. If we make it punitive to our children, they would not want to identify with that culture. So if we want to continue this culture, we have to bring our kids to a position where we listen to each other, where we understand and formulate our solutions together. We cannot impose. We have to understand that this is their reality. This is their lived experiences. I didn't go to school in this country. I didn't go to high school here. I didn't go to elementary school here. The troubles they encounter out there, I have no way of understanding until we come and find a middle ground. We will understand our kids. We will live and we will thrive as a family unit and one family system.
Thank you, Dr. Vivian. Our first question is going to go to Sister Consistence. How would you suggest is the best way to navigate compromise between parents and kids in an African home?
Thank you so much, Maflo. And with your permission, please give me 1 second. I'm really proud of the Graphic and seeing this way, these conversations happening between parents and children. Grafi oye! Grafi oye! Mubi! The difference is clear. And I was so emotional when I saw our daughters, our sons speaking with the parents in the same panel. This is already the solution of what we are trying to have conversations about. And thank you so much, Maflo. Thank you so much, President, and the other groups that have associated with the Graphic Women to bring this together. And thank you so much for your question, Maflo, on how we can navigate compromise. I think the communication group did an amazing job. The collaboration panelists did an amazing job. And I'm just going to come in with this point because I don't want to dwell so much on it, on how to compromise in order to navigate challenges happening in the African homes. The first thing I want to talk about is to model the conflict resolution process to the kids. So we have that conversation with them that we are going to begin to have this kind of conversation now going onward. It is not going to be an event, it's going to be a process, because this is something that was missing in our narrative. So now we are waking up to it. So we are going to explain that process to the children. And then we're going to have an open conversation and offer them an emotional safe space, like Random said. They need emotional safety. And when we open that emotional safe space, we are going to a space where they can express their emotion and their vulnerability without being shamed, without being blamed. And then on the part of the parents, when you offer that space, you will have to deactivate your defense system, you have to deactivate your offense, you have to deactivate your discipline. Like I do with my kids, I always tell them at this point where we are negotiating, you are not going to get punished for whatsoever thing you say. Because in the first place, if I didn't offer, I say to myself, if I did not offer them this opportunity and I never hear what they're going to be vulnerable about, so whatever I hear at that time is not punishable. So I let them express themselves, and whatever is said there is not condemned, is not judged, it's just flowing in a neutral environment. So, and then on the part of the parents too, we will have to actively listen. My son told me that African parents don't listen, they hear. And when they hear, they say, I've heard. So, we have to actively listen without judging and without blaming. And when we actively listen without judging, without blaming, and we should resist the urge to correct them or discipline them for whatever horrible things we are going to hear at that moment. So at that time, Compromise will be focused on solution. Compromise will be focused on solution. And parents, as much as we are granting them an emotional safe space to express their emotion, we will also have to be mature enough to deactivate emotional responses on our parts and not focus on the problem and not dissipate it on those things that will trigger, because they're going to say things, trust me, during compromise, they're going to say things that will trigger our African ego, that will challenge our personality, will challenge all the sacrifices we have done. We are going to hear those things. But we have to be able to be at the space where we can deactivate that to navigate this. And we are going to identify common goals. Identify common goals where we can pin on and then build from there. There are going to be a bunch of things that will trigger us, but we have to not pay attention to the negative. Focus on common goals, focus on the positive, and then build from there. When you were saying this, I noticed you said something like, I don't listen. Now, talking about us not listening, how would you like us to listen? They're going to tell you, they did an amazing job, the kids, telling us what we can do better. And if that conversation is happening, then it will help us on how to listen the way they feel listened to. And when we focus on that, we are still going to be parents. I'm glad when they said, this is not about bashing the African parents and we failed in our parenting duties, but this is us coming to the compromise table. So at the same time, we are still the parents of these kids. And I think Dr. Anna said that it is not one way. Every family here have family values, family rules, family culture. You probably have culture by which your family abides or follow. So you still have to know that you are parents for these kids. Minor on the non-essential and major on the essential. There are things that are negotiables and there are some that are non-negotiables. That's where you step in as a parent. Negotiate on flexible things and let them propose the compromise. Like you say, we don't let you hang out with your friends. So what do you suggest? And let them speak out. They're going to teach us a lot of things. So that's how I want us to navigate the compromise over an emotional safe space, listen actively without judging, deactivate your urge to blame, and then let them propose the solution, minor on the negotiables, and then major on the non-negotiable as parents. And then we have to appreciate them and praise them for participating in the compromise process.
Thank you so much. The next question is directed to Mrs. Musau. I just want to let you know that Mrs. Musau is from Kenya. And she's a specialist. So we are going to get her perspective on what are some of the precautions and merits and the children for failing to compromise within the family system.
Hi everybody. Thank you for having me come to this, and I want to say I'm so impressed that this room is full of parents and kids together, the panel, everything, and I'm so proud to see young people being able to come here and articulate so much knowledge. So as we continue to be Africans, and I'm a third generation African parent in America, so I have grandkids. I thank you, Dr. Open, I haven't met you, but everybody else who planned this, I'm totally impressed. And so happy to see this topic being addressed because it's long overdue. Africans, first generation Africans, that's those of us who are raised in Africa. We have this mindset that is instilled in us of what is right and what is wrong, do's and don'ts. And a lot of it has been addressed by the previous panels. But as one young person has said, there's a need for the two groups, the parents and kids, to educate each other. Because when you come here, first of all, we are on survival mode, the first generation, trying to make money, trying to provide house, food, everything else. And we think all the child needs is food, all the child needs is to study. And I'm sorry, I shouldn't say sorry because it's not a negative. Education is stressed everywhere in Africa. To be successful, you need to be educated. To be successful, you need to go to these other majors. So this is where the education, the kids educating you about culture here, because they learn it faster than while you are focusing work, they're in school, and you are not the only teacher of your child, by the way. Once they leave your house, there are other teachers out there. And what they are learning is not necessarily what you believe. It does not align with your teaching, your beliefs, and all that. Consequently, compromising is a key thing to really keep in mind, that I need to learn where my child is coming from. I need to learn the world they're living. And it's been compounded by media. Everything that's happening in media, some of them are such a false stuff. And our kids now, and I said I'm a third generation, they are on their phones, reading stuff from there. So not only are their friends teaching them, the media is educating them. Like it or not, it's happening. And as a DCFS, I'm actually retired, but as a DCFS, I was retired recently. But as a person who has worked with DCFS in all different categories, when you don't compromise, we eventually invite outside forces to come dictate and actually run your household. Because once they come, if it's not the police, it's DCFS. The child, the little play we had there, no play that was here, is one child getting so upset that they eventually sneak out, decide to go and do that. Guess what? When you come back home, when she comes back home, the parent is so upset, the emotions are so high, you really can lose control of your action, what you end up doing to this child. How dare you? And fixed mindsets in being our children being obedient. Sometimes we also cannot reconcile with the American systems. You said here they teach independence. They also teach kids to be assertive, and you want your children to be assertive. You don't want to raise kids that are just focused on one thing. If they don't assert themselves, then they're going to they're going to just keep and lead to mental health. But the sad part, and as I've seen it, is that they end up either whooping the child, which of course ends up bringing DCFS to their doorsteps, or the police. And again, once the police comes, once DCFS comes, you really don't have you really lost control because they dictate. I think we saw a video in the beginning that Nigerian young men talked about being in 2K and ended up reacting whatever, actually going to jail. And I've seen it happen here with our parents, especially our African parents, and not exclusively with that. So compromising is a big part of our parenting. Having to listen to our children, hear them, and sit down and work out what are you willing and what can you, okay, I'll allow you to do this, but maybe I'll allow you to go out but you'll be home by this time. And yes, there are rules that parents should take because you're still the parent. But kids need to be heard. And again, I don't want to be repetitious because a lot of this has been said in different panels, in the other panels. But it's important that we open our minds and I've been listening here and I say, I wish my daughter, my son, my daughter-in-law would have been here because sometimes I hear them talking to their own children who are in college or finished, but even when they are over a certain age, you still need to listen to them. And guess what also, when you don't listen, when they get 18, you can't touch them because they are adults, legally adults in America. And you can kick them out, but you cannot touch them anymore. No, are you really able to go for verbally abuse because DCFS comes out with all different categories of abuse. Could be verbal abuse, physical abuse, medical abuse. I can go on and on and on about that, but it's a huge area that cannot be covered in this session, especially the constraints of time that we have. So let us take everything that's been said here and make our minds to not open our doors to outside forces to come and dictate what goes in your house. Because legally, when DCFS comes in, you lose control. They are legally allowed to come in and go through your house. Every room, go through your fridge, and everything else. Everything is a house. And so, children need to also understand when they go to school, they had a disagreement with parents, and they go and say, this took place in my house. The other kids will start instigating, oh, DCFS, oh no, please don't do that. Because again, you are also opening your family, yourself, because kids get removed from home based on what the situation is. So, and although the kid may have told the truth, the kids are the ones who end up leaving home. Maybe parents did wrong, but the kids are looking to put in safer homes or whatever, which is not always the case. So again, DCFS is a big agency. I can't cover everything, but whatever, when you don't compromise, remember that's where this can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Musa. The last question is for Joe. What are the pros and cons of compromise on the family system as a whole? I'm sorry, Brian. Why did I skip you? What do we do if we come to a compromise and one side doesn't uphold their end of the decision?
Okay, so what's gonna happen when a compromise is made, a solution is made, and one party isn't upholding the end of the decision? This is where I would say the most important part of everything will come into play is accountability and how we're gonna hold each other accountable, right? And that goes for parents and children as well. So when doing so, this is going to be one of your biggest learning opportunities too, because accountability in this form and space, especially when it's between your parents and your children, it's your time to really take the time to learn a lot about your parents, and for your child to learn a lot about, for a child to learn about your parents and parents to learn about your child. Because how you're holding each other accountable is going to be based on each other's likes and dislikes. And that's going to be different in every case situation, and it's going to be different from parent and different from child to child. And so with that being said, what you would have to do would necessarily be just learn about each other and learn what mom and dad like to do. And when you guys come together after an argument and say, hey, okay, this is what I'm going to do in this argument, this is what I'm going to do in this argument, both of you guys should already know what each party likes of each other, and should set rules and say, okay, this is what's going to happen if I don't do my part, and this is what's going to happen if
I don't do my part, and so on and so forth. And so that way you're both holding each other accountable to make sure that you guys are working further to build each other's communication, each other's ability to compromise together, and each other's ability to collaborate with one another as well.
Great job. I apologize again. I guess that is why I skipped you, because you were going to say something that I would not like. I will tell you. Just kidding. Okay, our final question is for Job. Job happens to be one of our youngest panelists. And we thank you for coming, and he's a leader for this collaboration team. So I want to applaud you. So the question for you, Job, is what are the pros and cons of compromise on the family system as a whole?
All right. So before I actually answer that question, I'd like to ask everybody a question. What happens when you overcook beef? It gets too strong, right? It gets too strong. Have you ever tasted overly cooked soya and it's hard to chew, right? Now, another question. Who do you blame? Do you blame the beef or the cooker? The cook, right? See, a lot of times in African homes, parents call their kids a strong head, right? But we have to ask ourselves, who made them strong? Who made them strong? Like it's an actual question. Because to make beef perfect, there's a specific amount of cook time to make it tender and sweet, right? You cannot overcook your children, all right? You cannot over-traumatize them, over-dramatize things to make them into these strong and heartless human beings. That's not what we want. You need to not only balance your life with caring for your children, but also teaching them, okay? You can never succeed in teaching your children if there's no balance. Because we all have our ways of doing things, but your way is not always the best. You must always be open to learn. And one thing that makes me pretty mad in African parenting sometimes is their belief that they're always right. That they're not always right. And we need to understand, right? There's a mental aspect to parenting that we need to break, all right? One thing I learned from my mom is generational curses. There is always curses that are passed on from generation to generation that you need to break in your generation. If you do not break them, they will continue. And that will hurt your lineage, and nobody wants that. You cannot be a teacher if you are not ready to learn. And everyone needs to understand that. All right? What is the cause of 90% of the issues in today's parenting? Is pride. If you do not lower yourself, be open to learning, because just because you're older doesn't mean you're the smartest human being on earth. There are aspects of life that I know more than my father. Like, my father doesn't know much about cars, about games. I think I know more than him about that. But if he's not open to learn from me, then how can he teach me? Because we both have to have a learning curve in order for us to have a teaching curve, if that makes sense. The good thing about compromise is that, I really liked this topic, especially in this event, because like this event is like a sandwich, all right? There's communication, there's collaboration, then there's compromise in the middle, all right? You cannot compromise without communicating. You have to talk to bridge that gap. And you cannot bridge that gap without collaborating, because you can't compromise if you don't want to. All right, we have to collaborate together to compromise. So it all just comes together as this one big bundle to make an amazing sandwich. Like, does that make sense? Like, yeah. There's this gap that really needs to be bridged, especially with today's like parenting, because one thing that was brought up is that we're all learning, especially since, like, for example, I was born in Africa, but I was only there for like 2 years before I finally moved here. I was like a baby. And, you know, growing up, you know, the things we did in my house were totally different from what we did outside. And like, moving forward with my life, it really makes you like think about the fact that your parents, they do what they think is right, and then when they teach you stuff, like, you might not like agree with it, but they think it's right, so it causes this, you know, dysfunctional communication that slowly turns into arguments, which leads to not very well placed parenting, arguments in your household, and slowly turns into this bitterness that, if not treated now, will turn into this big tumor when you finally grow up. And none of us want that, right? None of us want that. I want us to understand something with compromise. All right. My dad always taught me that charity begins at home. And I always wondered, what does that mean? Children learn everything in their life, from cooking, cleaning, knowing how to handle situations from home. If you do not compromise with your children, obviously when they grow up, they won't know how to compromise with others. And, you know, let's say, like sometimes for me, I watch the news, right? And then there's kids who get arrested for fighting. And then the parents, they're asked about it. And then they're like, I saw no signs. All right? They're like, I saw no signs. I didn't know they were like this. But in reality, the issues that they were doing now were issues that were created when they were younger. Were issues that were done when they were growing up, that weren't treated, or that the parents caused. You know? And I really hate that fact that, you know, parents make their kids seem like they're so evil at times. Like, they look at the world, like, they see all these bad things, and then they're like, my kid is like that, and like, I need to stop them from being like that. Like, you know, parents really need to stop thinking the worst of us, you know, and start thinking the best of us. Because that will bring the best out of us instead of the worst that we see. But yeah, I don't want to waste too much of y'all's time. So.
No, yeah, but yeah, as good as you are, you have 1 second, rather.
Yeah, that's not enough time. So I'm just gonna be.
It's okay. It's okay. Go ahead.
I really don't want us to think of compromise like parents belittling themselves. Okay? Compromise is not you saying, oh, but if a child is bigger than me. No. Compromise is you coming to the middle to make peace. And peace is what leads to growth. Because when there's no growth, there's no belief, there's just no room to move forward. And when you don't move forward, you'll always stay in your past. Alright? Like, ooh, yeah, that's what I meant. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Wow. You see that?
Yes.
Did we learn a lot?
Yes.
All right. I would like Sister Consistent to wrap it up about our legacy for our children. So Sister Consistent, what legacy? What is the legacy that parents are the legacy of the kids we are raising in America? What is the legacy we are creating for them?
Thank you so much, Maflo. The topic of our symposium today is raising American kids in an African home. And we all brought the kids to America, or we all came to America to give our families a prosperous future. Am I the only one? Okay, and we live in a very wealthy country. And that's why we are here in the first place, where the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, the middle class struggle in debt, in loan, in taxes. And it's a system, when we come in here to get success for ourselves, we get entangled in a system. We start to go to school, and the success narrative in our community today is a big diploma and a big school loan, a big house and a big mortgage, a big car and a big car loan, a big credit card and credit card debts. The day we retire, we have nothing to show for. The day we are in trouble, we now realize we didn't own the house, we didn't own the car. Back in Africa, our parents hand over land, property transfer, legacy transfer to the sons. And in some cultures, when you're going for marriage, the mothers, they hand over pots, stoves, spoons, wrappers, to go start a new family, bowls. The question is, what do we have for these kids? What do we have for these kids? The very kids we came here to give them a prosperous future, we work 3 overtimes, we go to school to become doctors. When we make the money, these kids are going to public schools for free, eating food stamps and eating wigs. And we go back to school. By the time we are done with school, they are grown up. And all the money we work, we send them back to ungrateful Africans. And all the responsible parents. So what are we keeping for our kids? My daughter looked at me in the eyes and asked me, Mom, what did you and Dad set aside for my college? And what I could do was only to calm down my husband that this is a genuine question. And this is a question we need to start getting used to asking ourselves. Now, my focus is on mothers. Thank you so much, Maflo and Dr. Oben, for this amazing symposium. I think that we should do more of this for families. We are suffering. We are trying to solve a problem we identified when we're growing, and we have caused more. My focus is the motherhood intelligence. I'm not in any way downplaying our men, because I know a lot of our kids are growing in single homes. And a lot of time is single mothers, iron ladies. My focus is on what legacy are we leaving for this? We need financial literacy. Because we are stuck in a system that there is an intelligence that has been hidden to us. And we run the race, and we end up finding out that we are entangled still in that system and have nothing for our kids. And our kids are asking us questions that we cannot answer. We are doing financial intelligence. I'm part of a crusade. We are going around the United States, educating family with financial literacy. Financial freedom and generational legacy is not found in 3 jobs. It's not found in working hard. No one ever transferred legacy by working so hard. So that's why I want to wake up our community for that. And if you may let me have a request, we also have a request for more topics. How to do these 3 C's for husband and wives. Because we don't want to raise these children alone. How we have to do these 3 C's in intelligence, financial intelligence, wealth. We identified a doctor problem, an engineer problem, and a lawyer problem. We have solved it already. I think we have enough doctors. And we have created more. When we grew up, we never saw single homes. But it's happening to us the same way. We have started having this conversation. We are bold enough to have this conversation with our kids, talking directly to us. We need to get bolder in doing all those, and we hope that you will also host more events to bridge all these gaps. Thank you very much. And if you are interested about hearing about financial literacy, I have more to say. You can reach out to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Before we wrap it up, I would like to say that we are sorry. Do we have questions for this panel? Oh, okay. Please, I have it. Sorry about that. I'm going to ask one question. The first question from our parents: why do many African parents struggle to apologize when they are wrong? Even though they teach their children, for one of our children, even though they teach their children to do so. Parents who are not supposed.
Hello? Yes, for parents, yeah. So I'm going to answer that, and I think that the best way to answer this question is on behalf of all the parents sitting here. I want to tell our kids, we are sorry. We are very sorry. And we realize that, and that's why we have all decided to come to the drawing board, and we are trying to fix it now. Because Joe said that we cannot move forward if we don't communicate. And if we don't communicate, there's going to be no growth. And if there's no growth, we are going to dwell in our past. That was the past. Now we are communicating and we are moving forward. Thank you.
Let me just add. You know, African parents, I think sometimes their responses, I don't think it's from a place of malice. They are answering or responding from a place where that is what they know. But what I want to urge all of us as parents is that this is a new environment. This is a new place. It is a new space. And our children own this space. Sometimes, some of the things that we do or say are memories that are eternal for our children. They carry these memories in them through life. So, at this point, from what we've learned from here today, from what we've gathered from here today, let's be different. Let's start doing it differently. Our children have endured a lot. We probably were acting from a place of ignorance, but now that we know, we will do better.
I just want to also add that question and say that most of us African parents, especially those who live in Africa, a lot of us, I don't know about the okay, a lot of us live in homes that were really authoritarian. The parents were righteous, my way or the highway. We grow up with parents coming to tell them, so even when they realize they wronged you, they were wrong, they hardly ever came and said, so we actually practice love over the years. That's, I think, part of the struggle.
Okay, the final question, I think I want to ask this question because it's coming from the new parents. It is very important. What known resources are available to us new African parents to adapt, learn to better understand American culture and to help our kids?
Alright, so as far as new resources as new parents to help and educate your children, I would say, and especially like if you're first time American, I would say reach out to your children's friends, like your children's, like your parents, like your friends' parents. Those are going to be your best resources. They've been here their entire lives. They've grown up here. They know how the country works. They know how the system works, right? And just because you're friends with your kids' friends, like your kids are friends with your kids, they will be willing to help you. You'll be surprised more, like 10 times, 9 times out of 10, that those people will be willing to help you and they will understand your struggle because they are parents too. So whenever you don't understand your kids, you see that cultural divide, take the time to see who they hang out with. Who are your kids' parents? Like who are the people who are raising my kids around them? Because those kids are also raising your kids, right? So you want to take the time to get to know the people who raise the kids who are raising your kids.
Thank you very much. So to wrap it up, before we leave, we wrap this up, I just want to say that we apologize that we couldn't take all your questions today. We couldn't answer all your questions. We couldn't give you all the solutions to your questions. But we promise that we are going to use these questions to inform us on what to do next. So be expecting that. If you haven't signed in, please do sign in. If you didn't put in your email address or your phone number, we cannot promise that we're going to call it individually, but we'll figure out something to do. And so, before they leave, just want to say, what is the takeaway? What is the takeaway from this symposium today? And we want to say that raising American kids in African homes is not about choosing one culture over the other. Is it? Not about choosing one culture over the other. It's about blending the best of both. Blending the best of both. So when parents and children work together in trust, balance, and shared purpose, we raise not just successful students, but confident, resilient, and culturally rich young adults. So we hope that today you have learned something from this symposium, and you will start implementing some of those things that we have been failing to do. If we have been doing them, that's wonderful. If we have not been doing them, we have a start. We have a head start on this symposium. So thank you. On this note, I'm going to hand it over to our very able president, Dr. Sheila Oben, to give our closing remarks.
Well, I think this is an amazing event. We've heard, thank you so much. I think this is, like I said in the beginning, this is just the start. We've identified the problem, we're bold enough to start having the conversation. This is just touching the tip of the iceberg. We must be confident talking about these things if we want to have better relationship with our children when they grow up. We have to be honest with ourselves that many times our kids grow up and they leave, we never want to come back. Especially in the Cameroonian community. When our kids are able to be 14 and to stay home, they do not want to come to our occasions for the things that we have worked so hard and try to build in them those values. Because we want to pass that on to them, they shy away from it. Again, it's not about bashing parents. It's about saying there is opportunity to do things a little bit different, to have the outcomes that we're all wishing to have. So as Job is he's the youngest, but I think this man is going. Yeah, can I call him man? He's going places. He's going places, and I really just want to thank you for just being open and hearing from a young man like you, parents. Our kids have a lot to say to us. We have to listen. Active listening. Like I said, we stay with her. I'm going to say everything is said. So as somebody who's been in leadership for a long time, when I interview people, we're looking at their confidence. Are they able to express themselves? If we're suppressing our children, we don't let them speak. We don't give them that room to be confident, to confidently speak to us. It carries on in their lives. We want them to be successful. We want them to study, be a doctor. But if they go out there, they cannot communicate. They cannot collaborate with the people they work with. They cannot come to compromise with their colleagues or in solutions or in decisions that have to be made. How successful have we been? How successful have we been? So we mean well, but I think we need new tools to help them get to goals that we have ahead. So this is just the beginning. Again, I want to thank all the groups that collaborated with us. Eyumema, MOA, CAMWAC. I want to thank all the panelists. They put a lot of time in working together. I mean, everybody's busy, but this is also important to them that they sacrifice time. I want to thank all our vendors. Please do not leave without going and checking out the things they have here with you guys. All our vendors for promoting us, for supporting us to be here and showcase some of the African stuff that we have to sell here today. Please support their business. I want to thank all the Graffiti women for working so hard, financially, time, emotionally, and everything to put this together. Again, this is the beginning. There's so many topics. I really want to thank the kids. We had so many kids who wanted to participate, but we felt like it would be too much. So there are many topics we can talk about, but we want to encourage the parents. We want to see a level of interest, especially the men. The few men that are here, please take it back to the other men who are disappointed. This is raising our kids. We want you guys to be part of this. The mothers cannot do it on their own. So I hope that the next time we have this conversation, the fathers want to be present, because part of us compromising and having all this is both parents, first of all, communicating, collaborating, coming to a compromise before we give them to the children. So fathers, we need their involvement, we need their support, and we will have a better community if we all just relax a little bit and be flexible. So thank you so much. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you pick your brain, you start thinking a little bit differently. Again, there's no right way to do it. Let's just figure out what works for our families. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Please do not forget to visit the vendors. And we have snacks. Graffiti women would like you to stay back and help clean up this place. And everybody, if you have anything in front of you, help clean it up. Take it to the garbage, please. Let's keep the place clean as we can. Whatever you have.